Hello and welcome to our beloved parishioners. I'm Bailee.
I'm Ashley.
And this is Praise Be to Pod. Thank you so much for joining us. Ashley, what's on your heart?
I'm sad to say that I'm realizing a strict schedule is the only way for me to live happy.
Oh, that's so strange because that's kind of the opposite of mine, but go ahead.
Well, since I no longer have like a normal job or any job, I'm trying to get clients and things like that. And I'm trying to like build a business of my own. But I'm realizing it's like almost impossible for me unless I have a very set schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it something you can set for yourself or does it have to be like an external
Well, I mean, I'm
expectation?
trying, but before it was just kind of like, oh, just like work in the morning, work in the afternoon. But now it's like, get up at 7, like go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
I like need an actual schedule, and it's really a bummer because I thought I was cooler than that.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I feel that too, honestly. Mm-hmm. I am always doing better when I have like a lot of things streamlined.
Yeah.
But
it's sad.
No, that makes sense.
And like the busier I am, the more I get done.
Mm-hmm.
The less busy I am, the less I get done.
Isn't that kind of interesting?
Yeah.
Like you just think you're going to have so much more time to do things. And I feel like I always do better when I know I don't have a ton of free time. So I like lock in and prioritize tasks more.
Yeah. So it's just a bummer that I'm like so type A.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, honestly, kind of similar actually.
Okay.
So I have been struggling with managing my schedule lately. I like burnt out kind of recently when I thought I was doing like fine. And so I'm kind of going back to the drawing board about because I can't really not do the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm doing really anything in excess, honestly, except for like this podcast is probably what I spend most of my time doing. But I was scrolling through TikTok and there was this creator that popped up. She's like a rock star, but she's also trying to do TikToks. Her name is Pearl. I really like her.
Okay.
But her thing is that she is kind of a mess and she is so type B that it would like, it's like almost stressful.
Yeah.
But it's very fun to watch the way that she just kind of like, I don't know, like figures everything out. Like she's very resourceful and scrappy. So one of the things that I have noticed about her is that she still gets done the things she needs to get done. She's an amazing songwriter. She writes every single day and she produces music. And I will say, I know a lot of people, including myself for a while, who got a lot of stuff done, except for the thing I really wanted to get done, which was the creative stuff.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made me wonder, am I using like always having a clean house or like working out or all that stuff as like a form of procrastination? Like why I feel like right now I cannot write and I cannot work on this podcast unless my house is clean. But then cleaning my house gets the best part of my brain.
Yeah.
And that's like my the mornings are the best for my brain, but I can almost never write because I have to get other things done first. So I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, do I need to kind of, because I used to be pretty type B when I was younger. I'm like, do I almost need to go back to that so that I actually work on this? And like my life is not really going to change that much if my house is a little messier. Like, I don't know. Just something I've been thinking about.
Yeah. Well, also like when you know you have other things to do that are very, very straightforward. It's like I have to unload the dishwasher. Like I have to do my dishes. Then anytime I'm trying to do something creative, I'm like the dishes.
That's kind of what,
and it's like, I just need to be done. So I stop thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the problem that I've had too, is that especially when you're writing, you really have to be in a specific headspace. And so I have to cultivate the environment to produce that headspace. But this bitch she hasn't cleaned her house in like a year. It's disgusting.
You're always cleaning your house.
Well, I have these cats and they're so gross. Like I honestly, I always clean my house. And if you were at my house right now, I didn't clean my sink this last week and it's disgusting because of just all the dust from how old everything is. So, I mean, it's just still not clean. I'm so upset.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Okay.
Next.
Cool. Okay, this might be like too rough of an intro just to go straight into the topic. It feels like
I'm so tired. You should just go for it.
But last time our episode was so long, and Jacob's going to kill us. So we're going to try to...
Not true.
Make this one a
He's
little
holding
shorter.
a gun.
That is not true. I have a knife.
Wow. A British guy.
What?
They have a big problem with like knifings.
Oh, do they really?
Stabbings. Oh
That's
my God.
so dramatic. Knife.
Okay, we were in England this summer. I think it was England, and someone was coming up to us on the street, and they were like trying to give us a pamphlet on like this huge problem in the UK, which is stabbings.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, "We're from the US, dude." And he was like, "Oh, sorry, it's like not a problem."
Yeah, it was like you are dealing with a far greater.
We're like, okay, well, if they can't get 60 people in 1 minute, it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah. Also, he's probably just like, y'all have a school shooting every 5 seconds. I'm not gonna hand you this
Yeah, he's
pamphlet
like,
on
never mind.
shankings.
Okay, that was our extra intro, I guess.
Yep.
Speaking of violence, our topic this week is save the children. Everyone wants the children to be saved, but no one agrees on what to save them from. That's my commercial.
I actually really like that. Yeah. So if you grew up evangelical or you have a background in evangelical Christianity, you have probably heard or you've maybe recognized that there's this weird obsession with the religious right to save children. From like a slew of issues, a lot of things are framed like, but the children, or like a lot of the legislation that they try to pass is about preserving the family and protecting kids specifically. And so we have caught on to that and we're not buying it. So we did a little bit of a deep dive and an analysis on what we really think is going on and why we think it's somewhat, or actually very hypocritical. So shall we get into it?
I think we shall. Okay, so when I was in ministry, a big thing that was preached all the time was how it's very important to get the gospel to children when they're young, because it's much harder to change your ways when you're older. You know, your brain is formed and you can like think critically and have media literacy, and your mommy and daddy aren't making you believe something.
Yes.
So it was introduced, I think, in like the 90s. So this was something that people talked about since like the 1930s. The 414 window is a movement, and it was coined by the same people who coined the 1040 window movement.
Yeah.
So 1040 is like latitude. I always get them confused. Longitude and latitude lines of like, you know, countries that are least likely to have the gospel, the Christian gospel.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like basically the Middle East and Asia.
Yeah.
Like,
brown countries.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the 414 window is ages 4 to 14. So those are the ages you can ease that. Like the true research is like, those are the ages where you can tell these kids the gospel and they're more likely to receive it, accept it, and continue to be a Christian throughout their life.
Right. Because like that window is when you are in very critical developmental years.
Yeah.
So like apart from religion, it's also so critical to forming identity and ideology.
Yeah.
And like paradigms and frameworks.
Yeah. So whoever kind of captures them in that window shapes their eternal destiny. That's the idea. Is like you can capture them for God, or they can be captured by the secular world or by the media or by social media.
Yeah. And that's why we see in like documentaries like Jesus Camp, there's such an urgency to captivate children for the army of God, because we need child soldiers, obviously. Because
I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, basically we needed those kids to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. So this is kind of a strategic framework of youth camps, VBS, Christian schools, purity culture, political worldview formation, colleges for Christians, you know, blah, blah, blah. The key point here is that evangelicalism does not oppose shaping children. It is structurally organized around shaping children.
Yes.
Specifically for their own views.
Yes.
So there's a big double standard here. And I do think that Bailee heard this a lot more than me, like save the children, save the children. I don't think I heard that as much, but like it got indoctrinated into me to save the children as I became a person in ministry.
Right.
And like I was always like, I don't know, but I did a lot of camp stuff with kids and like, you know, wanting to see kids convert to Christianity and, you know, accept Jesus in their heart type of bullshit. And then as an adult, I was more interested in seeing the understanding and forming the faith of adults, college students, because I felt like college was really where it was important to me. Like a lot of people that I knew lost their faith if they became a Christian when they were a kid, but in college is when it was cemented.
Yes.
One way or the other. So to me, it didn't make sense, but it's still a very valid and big movement. But I think as we can see now by the height and I don't know, famousness of this podcast.
What?
Yep.
This is news to me.
I was trying to put together the words of like the popularity of the evangelical movement.
Oh, the magnitude.
Yeah. The magnitude of the evangelical movement that it only takes, 30 years after you become a Christian to realize it's all a big fucking mess.
Yes.
So it doesn't work. Okay. Let's go back to the 414 movement and change it into the 3045 movement. And that would be the audience for Praise Be to Pod.
Our target demographic.
Thank you.
But, those people, many of our audience has probably been in that targeted demographic of children who I think a lot of evangelical teaching was like.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like it didn't work long term.
Yes, not long term. But I think that, I think in some sense it has worked. I think that we're getting that specific, shred of the population that are deconstructing. But I think there's still a lot of people who are drinking the Kool-Aid. I don't know the numbers, honestly, but I know there's a bigger
Christian
ton.
research numbers are very problematic. So don't even get me started. Don't get me started.
I won't.
I've been a part of it for way too long.
No, I know.
And I feel spicy.
They don't know a lot about, data in itself is very commonly manipulated and misunderstood. And I think that if you're an evangelical Christian, it's very possible that you are already prone to manipulation and misunderstanding. So data in the wrong hands is just such a nightmare. It's dangerous.
Tangent alert. The data that they're collecting almost always isn't even in the US. It's internationally amongst partners that they're working with, that they are serving and giving money to work with. And those people will do whatever they need to continue to get money from the American institutions.
So they'll give people
data. So they're going to give you the numbers you want to hear.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's all corrupt. I'm just saying, like, when you create a system that depends on monetary value going from an American's hand to an impoverished country, who wouldn't do that?
Who wouldn't doctor some numbers? Yeah.
Or who wouldn't just count the same kid 3 times every year?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I understand.
But
anyway,
you need to take over.
No, that's okay. So one of the things I think that we have noticed is that there is a huge double standard when it comes to indoctrination. Indoctrination is a word that is so commonly thrown out by Christians, even though they are maybe one of the worst offenders of indoctrination.
I think any religion,
Yeah. So you've probably heard a lot of far-right evangelical Christians talk about the culture war and how public schools are indoctrinating young people with critical race theory that's brainwashing them. LGBTQ content in schools is grooming them, and sexualizing children is a thing that I feel like I've heard a lot. Basically, teachers are trying to make kids trans. Kids are always being human trafficked out of Target parking lots. There's just a lot of stuff specifically in relation to the culture war when it comes to kids, even though there's so many other threats to children that are actually real that are never discussed, like school shootings and things like that. But yeah, if you, like the church and like most people, believe that children are impressionable and that exposure to certain content shapes their identity, it's not really so much about not indoctrinating children, it's who gets to indoctrinate them first. And so I think a lot of it is this like race and power grab to get the kids first, and so that they can be indoctrinating them, which is why it's so confusing, because a lot of these accusations that we hear the religious right make at the secular world and what they're doing with kids are things that are actually happening within the church. They just think it's okay when they do it, which is a very narcissistic framework to operate from, but here we are.
And I would say the biggest red flags, because like in some sense, like to be devil's advocate, if I were a right-wing conservative evangelical, I would say, well, someone's got to indoctrinate them. It might as well be me. So like they truly think that indoctrination can also just be like, you know, healthy, normal life lessons.
Right.
And if they're not tied to a religion, they're not real. But somehow that's like some sort of like wild liberal indoctrination.
Right.
Where it's like, be nice to people.
Yeah.
You know, don't be an asshole.
I think it's because, from my perspective, a lot of them think that the reason why that stuff is so harmful is because it's really palatable, and it's kind of how, like, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, or it's like the wide road, like we talked about in Joanna's episode, where it's like that stuff sounds really good, but that isn't equipping you with like the discernment and the sharpness and the shrewdness to like actually live a moral life. Like, I'm going to play devil's advocate with them for a second. If, you know, you heard kids being told like, oh, you don't need to worry about like safety when you're out in public. Like, you can talk to strangers. Like, if someone, you know, says, hey, like, come get into my van and like eat some of my candy. Like, you don't need to be villainizing strangers. Like, don't live in fear, have a good time. That all sounds nice, but that would literally make us like the hair stand up on our arm, because that is so dangerous, and it's not producing the correct discernment that you want to teach kids. And so I think that for a lot of evangelicals, a lot of overly progressive, non-intense forms of parenting feel like not giving kids the proper discernment to protect themselves, which is why like gentle parenting or Montessori parenting is like very scary to a lot of very religious people. So that's my theory on that. Okay, but let's talk about one, or we're going to talk about a few of them. Well, one of the frameworks in particular that I think is kind of a fear-mongering tactic with evangelical adults is the fear that kids are being indoctrinated with like the gay agenda.
Yes.
Have you heard this before?
Of course.
Yes. What have you heard?
They're making them gay.
They're making them gay. Who's making them gay, Ashley? The gays?
The schools.
The schools are making kids gay.
The drag queens.
The drag queens, yes.
The perverts.
The perverts, yes. So we talked about this a little bit in an episode about the myth of a Christian nation, where we were talking about how there was this paradigm shift where evangelicals could no longer sell the narrative that marriage is between a man and a woman to like successfully encourage people to keep voting against like LGBTQ affirming legislation. But they started losing the culture with that because it just was harder and harder to buy. So they had to kind of reshape the narrative to villainizing LGBTQ people as like a pathway to pedophilia. So there is a lot of save the children oriented language that is essentially alluding to the fact that they think that queer people are sexualizing children. So there was this, who was it? It was someone in Oklahoma. I think he was like a superintendent. He tried to pass this like legislation or initiative way back in the day to like outlaw pornography from being used in classrooms. And so parents were hearing that and they're like, what? Pornography in classrooms? He was talking about sex education curriculum. But they're basically conflating sex ed curriculum. And I'm assuming that this curriculum had queer representation in the different forms of sexuality, which is valid. It is a part of a comprehensive sex education to include queer relationships and queer sexuality. But because queer people are so fetishized and sexualized by the religious right, even mention of them is conflated with sexualization and pornography. And honestly, there's a lot of closeted evangelicals. And so I think that there's a part of them, like when they hear stuff about queerness, there's a part of their own identity that gets like flared up a little bit. So there's this automatic sexualization of them.
Their shame is loud.
Yes. No, it's very, very evident. So yeah, and I think a lot of it too, and this is something that we have in the notes and that I added to a little bit. So I think that for many evangelical parents, even if there is just the existence of a queer teacher, that means that that teacher is trying to change their kids and make them gay. And my theory is that for Christians, evangelical ones in particular, it's because they are always trying to recruit people.
Yes.
It's a complete projection.
Yes.
They do not believe that there can be a coexistence of two different types of people because they don't tolerate it. So when they see a gay teacher, they're like, well, of course that person is trying to make my kids gay, because them as Christians are always trying to make kids Christian.
Yeah.
So I think it's just honestly a projection.
And if we go back to the past couple episodes of the myth of a Christian nation, all of this thinking and rhetoric kind of started amongst desegregation. And so there is some sort of like through line where whoever is against these far right people are thinking like, no, we all need to be in our own groups. Like we can't be integrating with others. We have to be, this is the straight Christian school, and this is the queer school, and this is the whatever school, you know, like.
Yeah.
And how dare my children be exposed to things that are different than my own home can offer? That's kind of the whole idea of the far Christian right, is like, bring my kids to places where everyone has the same ideas, the same thoughts, the same homeschool curriculum, the same loser haircut, and the same ugly dresses, you know?
It's the James Dobson way. Everything is to get kids back into the home so that their exposure to the world is limited.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, a petri dish from being able to shape and indoctrinate with ideology.
And there's actually this Netflix series that just came out called Trust Me, The False Prophet. And it's kind of a follow-up of some other Netflix shows about the fundamental LDS sects. But this one was like very, very different because this leader really let this girl in who filmed everything. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting is this is right after Warren Jeffs is taken to prison, and this other guy kind of takes over some of the girls and brings them to their own colony. And the whole thing I'm getting at is, in the midst of him getting arrested, you see the veil fall in one of the girls' eyes, like his top wife. You know, a couple people dissent and like they're like, this is wrong, because he was like taking 10-year-old wives, and like it was really sick.
Yeah.
But they were in such a small, insular environment that everyone was like, no, this is right. This is right. He's the new prophet. And they were just told over and over again whatever he wanted them to hear. And you see it fall.
Yeah.
And now one of the girls, like, she had to go to prison because she was like basically in on it all. But she's in prison is where she was like, oh, this isn't real.
Yeah.
She had to go to prison.
Yeah.
To realize she was in a cult.
That's really
like,
sad.
It's so interesting. Like, I really recommend it because it has such an inside view and such a wide view of like what can happen. But seeing the veil fall was like a deconstruction in 3 episodes. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like, in a much less scary sense, that's what they want by Save the Children. They mean like keep the exact ideas and values in their heads throughout their whole life and don't let them go astray.
Yes. No, that's exactly what it is. And I think that the justification for, because obviously there are people who are really nefarious and who are highly manipulative, like James Dobson, Jerry Falwell, Ronald Reagan, all those people. And then there's also just, I think, kind of naive, but operating in good faith evangelicals as well, who don't want their kids to go to hell because they love their kids. And they have been told that the only way, like that, any exposure to these really enticing liberal ideas, because they're very palatable, they're going to sound like they make more sense than what you're being brought up in, because it makes more sense. And it's going to be especially hard for your kid to stay on the straight and narrow. So you have to do everything you can to limit their exposure to this stuff, because it is going to be irresistible. And I think that, like, I remember when I was evangelical kind of understanding that fear and panic, because we were told that, like, hell is going to sound like a lot more fun and intoxicating until you get there, and that what we were doing was going to be hard and rigid and the world wouldn't accept it. So it just kind of creates this palette of tolerance for discomfort and, like, being hated by people, being really hard to be around. So every time you, like, face
like,
resistance,
for it,
you're like, oh, this is just confirmation I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, I'm just such a good martyr.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I remember, like, going to camp for a week, and you'd be on the, like, Jesus high.
Yeah.
And you'd be so excited about Jesus, and you're like, I'm going to read my Bible all the time. I love my Bible so much. I'm going to highlight everything constantly. and I'm going to call all my Christian friends and just talk about being Christian together. Mm-hmm. And then, 3 weeks later, you're like, Angela isn't reading her Bible anymore. Mm-hmm. And she was being mean to her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
and they
really
would prepare you, now you're going to go back home.
They would always say it's going to, you're going to backslide.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're going to be a big backslider.
Yeah. But not you. You're going to be different.
Yeah. You're ready for the persecution.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. So another word that I think is thrown around a lot to fearmonger with evangelical parents is grooming, which I think is very similar to what we just talked about. Cause I think that there's a lot of conflation between sexual grooming and LGBTQ movements within evangelical frameworks of thinking.
Wait, what do you mean?
Should I say that again? Maybe
no, I just don't know what you mean.
Oh, so when the word grooming is used, a lot of it is used to describe what queer people are doing to kids. They're grooming them into homosexuality.
Oh, I've only heard it as pedophilia.
But I think that those are conflated. They're strategically used interchangeably so that people kind of it's almost for a brainwashing purpose that they start associating with that. So for instance, I remember I was having a conversation with my mom one time, and she was going to a protest at the Capitol, and I was asking her, because she had called me to just catch up. I'd asked her what the protest was for, and she said, it's for this movement called Save the Children. And I'm like, God damn it. And I was like, oh.
From what, Mom?
Yeah. And then I was like, what is there's a lot of things that children are vulnerable to. I was asking her, what specifically are you saving the children from? And so she just starts throwing out all these buzzwords. So it starts with, human trafficking, grooming, indoctrination, sexualization, forcing them to be trans. So it's this, and pedophilia. So
yeah, everyone can just be talked into being trans.
Yes. So she fronts the thing with things that are universally worrisome. Nobody wants their child to be human trafficked. No one wants their child to have an encounter with a pedophile. Nobody wants their child to be taken from them and sexually exploited. Mm-hmm. So you front with the most fear-mongering things imaginable, the thing that are parents' worst nightmare, and then you back it up with, and also gay people too. So that's why it literally just rolls off the tongue. Okay. Then. It's a strategy. And so I remember in this conversation, I was like, I'm going to stop you right there. I think that's a problem. And my mom says, do you have a problem with saving the children from human trafficking? And I was like, oh my God, that's literally it was a textbook example of exactly what the ultimate agenda and plan was, which is to anytime you question the Save the Children movement, you sound like you're defending pedophiles.
You know who's defending pedophiles? Republicans.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Everything's a projection, I swear to God. So anyway, this grooming thing is just like that too. So anytime that there's a book that's in school, so book bans are a big thing. There's books that are indoctrinating kids like that. The children's book that had the 2 gay penguins that was a lot of evangelicals wanted removed from public libraries. That was a big deal.
Wait, the thing on Parks and Rec?
No, it was a book about because penguins can be queer or can be gay.
Yeah, it was on Parks and Rec. They got married.
Okay, so that's a good example of that. But yeah, a lot. There's this belief that a lot of these materials are indoctrinating kids. A really big thing too is about sex education curriculum, because obviously sex ed is a sensitive subject and people probably can really botch that conversation in schools. I'm sure there are real examples of kids coming home from school and when asked what they learned about said something that sounded horrific, but then it becomes this big fear-mongering campaign. There's this big agenda to indoctrinate kids when at worst there was probably just some mishandling of how some information was delivered because it's awkward. In the same way where on our podcast, sometimes we say things where we're like, I would have said that a little differently in hindsight, but I'm scared because there's a camera on me.
Yeah, because Jacob's here.
Yeah, because Jacob's here, and I don't know what he's going to think about me because he's so young and hip and cool.
And because I'm holding the knife behind the camera.
And he has the weapon.
And there's a knife in.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
So anyway, I think that there's a lot of ideological disagreement is associated with predatory behavior, and that's strategic.
And obviously this could go unsaid, but I can't not say it. Mm-hmm. the most grooming that has happened in the media has been by people who are either perpetrators of this movement or religious leaders.
Yes.
Like religious leaders that's like the prime place where it's happening.
Yes. The call is coming from inside the house for a lot of this stuff.
Like that's where we need to save the children from youth pastors.
Yeah. But okay, actually this is kind of, I think, the through line of this, and it kind of leads into like the other bullet points that we have in here, is that even just like in the way American exceptionalism works, it never looks internally. It always assumes that it is the hero and that it is fighting foreign bad actors. And a lot of these issues are actually just as bad in America.
Yeah.
So another, I think, big fear-mongering thing is like human trafficking or like child sexual abuse. There is this assumption that it happens with like, you know, somebody like a foreign actor, like grabbing your kid off the street, or a
like
stranger.
Immigrants.
Yes, immigrants, or like a stranger somewhere, or like a lot of it is done like with across borders and internationally, when like actually like most often when kids are sexually abused, it's with an adult that they know and trust.
Yeah.
And most often when kids are human trafficked, it's actually, well, it's mostly on like Native American children, which like I think a lot of the media representation is white children. Oh, it is far, like it's an astounding difference. Like, and then black children underneath them. Yep. It is such a, and it's underreported too. So many kids go missing on the reservation. They are hardly ever the poster children for human trafficking, even though
I've never seen a Native American on a poster for human trafficking.
Yes. It's always like some white blonde girl getting taken by a Romanian, like,
yeah, because honestly, the media only cares about a white blonde girl.
Exactly.
Like, there's like a whole thing about it in true crime today. Like they talk about like, oh, because it was a cute blonde girl, it was covered by the media.
Yes.
You know, like
when actually like the communities where the human trafficking of children is exacerbated are actually the ones that experience the most inequities. So it's parents in such low income situations that they have to sell their children. And the problem with that is that if evangelicals actually came to terms with the truth about child trafficking, they would realize that they are voting for people who are actively contributing to the inequities that pave the way for child trafficking.
Yeah.
But like, that's why a lot of the examples, like, do you remember that movie, The Sound of Freedom, that was released a few years ago? So it was like it has Jim Caviezel in it, who was Jesus in the Passion of the Christ. It's true.
Your favorite movie.
My favorite movie. But it's this like really exaggerated movie about, I think he like used to work for the like, he's like an agent. Like the
Republican human trafficking movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
But he's like rescuing these kids from this, I think like Colombian trafficking ring or something. And a lot of people who actually work in anti-trafficking organizations criticized the movie because it said it's harmful how exaggerated it is, because it like doesn't even show how it commonly happens, and therefore actually distracts from like real initiatives and real policy that would help combat human trafficking, because it makes it seem like their issue. It's a foreign issue. It's an issue you have to worry about when you're traveling. It's an issue you have to worry about when you're like in a Target parking lot in like a city. It's like, it's always framed around like strangers, even though that's rarely actually what it is. And when you constantly frame things like that, you miss sexual abuse in the church. You miss like clergy sexual abuse. You miss like incest. You miss, you know, like partner on partner, like domestic violence, like all the things that are actually happening at much higher rates. And if you don't tell those stories accurately, you miss the opportunity to educate people on what they can actually do to curb the problem in a real and tangible way. So yeah, basically like the rhetorical shift was that it relocates danger to outside of the church when a lot of these like exploitations of children are happening within the church or within America, within these systems that we are told that we can trust and have our best interests in mind. Within the home, the nuclear family, the one that James Dobson is trying to protect.
Yeah.
Like even think about, you know, the homeschool episode we did where there was that law they tried to pass.
Yeah, Rayleigh's law.
Rayleigh's law that said that you cannot have like an open CPS case and homeschool your children. And evangelical right tried to fight that.
Yeah.
Like it's this ignoring that a lot of this abuse actually happens in the home. And it's like extremely detrimental. Another thing too, because I could talk about evangelical perceptions with human trafficking all day. Mm-hmm. One thing too that I think is, do you remember the movie Taken?
Of course.
Okay, so there's a few different tropes within that movie that I think are really problematic.
Like Liam Neeson just killing everyone?
I don't care about that. He can do no wrong. I don't think it's like him personally. That's the problem. It's just the writing. So his daughter, who gets taken in the movie, it is revealed later that she is a virgin. Mm-hmm. And that's a really big reason why she's able to survive, because they want to sell her to the highest paying bidder, like this rich guy from, I don't know where, Eastern Europe. And she has a friend who she comes along who is a lot more sexually liberated than her. Like when they go on this European trip, she really wants to like sleep with this cute guy. She seems very normal things that people want to do, men and women, when they're traveling. It is okay to meet strangers and have sex with them. Yeah. But it is basically priming you to not care when that girl ends up being abused. Because when he finds the friend first, I don't know if you remember that scene, and she's dead in a brothel. And it is just like a really quick little, like they barely pay attention to her death. And then there's just this really big deal about his daughter being a virgin. And there is this greater, I think, incentive to save her because of her like perceived purity.
It's really sick.
And it also shows that like this whole human trafficking movement isn't even about protecting women. It's about restoring and controlling women's sexuality and purity. Yeah. And basically
owning them.
Basically, it's, I'm going to take back my property before it's damaged. Yeah. Like it's vigilante stuff. It's not actually about the humanity of these women and children being taken. And it's another reason why I think this child trafficking narrative is pushed so much, is because they're perfect victims. There's like, they're uncomplicated, but they don't give a fuck when sex workers are assaulted and murdered. Like they don't give a fuck when like women are abused by their partners because, you know, pick better men. Like they are incapable of feeling sorry for a woman unless she is almost childlike. Yeah. And that's intentional.
Again, while yelling about imagined grooming, evangelical communities are protecting abusers, doubting victims, minimizing reports, and framing allegations as spiritual warfare.
Yes, and scapegoating marginalized people like they did when they were lynching Black people during Jim Crow era South. Black men were always being falsely accused of raping white women, and they weren't the biggest offenders of violence against women. This is just a repackaged version of that, always framing marginalized people who like aren't able to defend themselves with the same resources as like people with a lot of privilege, when white men get to slip under the radar and be like completely unnoticed, completely unaccounted for. All the shift to blaming people for like sexually exploiting women and children is always placed on people who don't have the legal power and access to actually properly defend themselves.
Yeah, and like allowing people to actually admit that internal abuse is happening causes their whole system to crumble. Like it destabilizes moral authority and the we protect innocence narrative and the divine legitimacy of their leadership. Like the system can't be like God's chosen protector of children and the site of systemic harm.
Yes.
Like it has to stop somewhere, but instead like they just deflect it.
They deflect all the time. We've also, I mean, this one's kind of tough to talk about because I used to make fun of QAnon all the time. It appears as though some of the suspicions that QAnon was talking about are found in the Epstein files. But
Can you tell us what QAnon is?
Yeah, so basically it's this underground, like, I think Q was the name of this. I think he was like a blogger or something. Yeah, but he basically was sending all these tips about how there is this like elite, liberal, typically like Jewish cabal of like moguls in Hollywood and like liberal politics that are doing this like child sex trafficking ring, and they're like doing human sacrifices.
Was this around like the same time as the Illuminati stuff?
I think it's kind of related to that. Okay. I think it came a little bit after. Okay. So that was kind of a big thing big deal. But once we had more access to the Epstein files, we realized that there is this very like elaborate child sex trafficking ring. And there are some things that look questionably ritualistic as well.
Yeah. And like satanic.
And satanic. Yeah. Well, here's what I will say. We don't know if they're satanic, but we do know that a lot of them are Christian.
Yeah.
And also like
Christian.
other major religions. So to me, I don't really care about the satanic stuff because that is just another way that Christians are deflecting from the fact that even if there were satanic players, Satanists are not the power.
No, and when we religion. Say satanic, we mean like fake satanic, like the ideology of like human sacrifice satanic, which like, isn't actually Satanist.
Well, I think that this is part of the QAnon stuff. I don't know if this is actually confirmed. There are things that sound like they are sacrificing children to like the ancient god Baal that was in like Abrahamic times, and that God asked Israel to like, or commanded Israel to stop doing child sacrifices for. Yeah, it's like pretty disgusting. So there's this belief that it's kind of a revival of that. Regardless, like a lot of these people are at face value Christians, and Christians are never holding each other accountable. There are like 3,600 or 36,000 references to Trump in the Epstein files. They don't give a shit. They never cared about the children. Mm-hmm. Some of the stuff that Trump is being accused of, even the substantiated claims, are far greater than I could ever imagine. It is inconceivable, the like cruelty and just like twisted wickedness. And to see people continuing to defend him has been like utterly shocking to me.
It's sick.
Yeah, it's disgusting. But anyway, all of this coming to you by the people who are trying to save the children. So really hard to believe them after all of this.
Do we want to talk about saving the children from guns or drag queens?
No. I mean, it's just kind of like...
I'm so tired. It's so exhausting.
I mean, at this point, like, it's just kind of like at face value. And this is something that I think has been used as a point of argument for a while. If you care so much about kids, why won't you advocate for greater gun restriction when, like, kids are being slain in schools from mass shootings constantly every single year? And it just shows, like, it's a prioritization of, like, sexual ownership over children, not actually their well-being and protection.
Like, it's happened in many cities I've lived in. It's not like just, it happens once in a while. Like, it happened in Minneapolis when I lived there. It happened in Florida when I lived there. It happened on my college campus in Arizona.
Yeah.
Like, it is not like a once in a while thing. It's constant.
Yeah.
But you know what's not scary? A drag queen.
I don't think so.
I've been to so many drag shows. They make you feel great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, does it make me feel great? Republican pastors.
Yeah, me neither. I don't feel super great from them either.
As we wrap up, we just want to say that saving the children often means save them from becoming someone we don't recognize. Deviation is framed as victimization, and identity difference becomes evidence of harm. Mm-hmm. So, and at any point when a child decides to disagree with their parent or, you know, religious person in their life, all of a sudden they are no longer being saved.
Yeah.
And children grow up to be adults.
Mm-hmm.
And like adults have access to information and will make their own opinions. And like, if they are allowed to make more choices and know more earlier, it's not going to change the trajectory of their life. It's just going to change their regrets.
Yeah.
Like, I'm grateful to say, like, I only have myself to blame for the deconstruction that I'm now facing and the religion that I put myself in. That was self-inflicted. That was not put on me by my family or by my parents. I was not forced to go into ministry or go to camp. Like, I wanted all of it. I wanted to be Christian so bad. And so, like, I'm full of regret, but thankfully I don't need to be angry at my family for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think everyone else has that choice. And I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
Like, I know at the end of the day, like, my parents accepted me even though I was so judgmental and such an asshole.
Yeah.
They still accepted me because they knew what I believed was like what I thought was the truth and what I thought was best. And like, that wasn't going to change whether or not they were Satanists or evangelicals or, you know, the same kind of Christian I was. I was going to be that.
Yeah.
And even though like I went quote unquote the way that this type of person wants you to be, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, and a lot of times when you hold too fast to trying to shape what your children believe, it backfires.
Yeah.
Like, I've returned to Christianity because I found like a liberal progressive expression of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the things that my family like so like anxiously try to protect my mind from seeing, that intense control is the thing that made me push back, is the thing that made me doubt like if it was true, because it started getting like I started feeling like a caged animal, and that made me scared.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is now the things that they told me to be wary of and to avoid are actually the things that have brought me back to Christ.
Wow.
Which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah.
And the reality is that no matter what you want your kids to believe, it's not Build-A-Bear workshop with your kids. Like, you can do your best to train and mold them, but at the end of the day, like, you have to respect their agency and their individuality. And that is something that is just not as common in the evangelical church, because children are like child soldiers for the army of God.
Yeah.
They're kind of seen as, I mean, the word property is maybe a little extreme, but like kind of, honestly. So anyway, I think that there are actual people that operate in good faith in the Save the Children movement. I think that they have been convinced that children are under threat by the things that we listed in this episode. And there are like some versions of it, like children are sexually exploited. There is child trafficking.
Yeah.
But the harms are not necessarily found where they are skeptical of them being.
Exactly.
So anyway,
you
want to take us away?
That's it for us today. Blessed are the listeners, for they shall save the children from religious indoctrination. You can find us on praisebetopod.com on the web and Praise Be to Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, and Patreon. It's finished.
It is finished.